everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Longbox Guys. My name is Tom, and with me, as always, are some of my very best friends since I was a very little kid. Mikey's cracking open a cold one. What are you drinking there, Mike?
I've got a uncut gem amber lager from Hapa's Brewing Company, which is just about a block away from my apartment. So I'm very excited to try this.
Uncut gem sounds like it's an uncircumcised penis beer.
I've never tried an uncircumcised penis, but this is delicious.
I'm glad you like it. Stacy, same question to you. How you doing and what are you drinking?
I'm doing well, and I'm drinking water out of my trusty monster cup.
That is a good-looking monster cup. Josh, my good friend, got a nice beer in front of you. I know you do. What do you got?
I've got a repeat of last week with Stacy's mom.
I hear that beer has got it going on.
Yeah.
Tommy up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good end, Tommy. What are you drinking there, brother?
I'm drinking some old camp whiskey, Tom. It tells me it's smooth right on the bottle.
Nice. And I
don't believe the advertising.
And I decided this week to break out some Suntory whiskey. Suntory whiskey. It's whiskey from Japan. Oh, you got some over there too, Suntory. And why am I drinking Suntory whiskey? Because today's character we're talking about is Katana from the land of the rising sun. One of Tommy's favorite characters of all time. And I'm sure he's very excited to tell us the secret origin of Katana. What do you got, Tommy?
Well, I thought Stacy was doing this. This is one of Stacy's favorite characters.
Sat on my hand, so I
Oh,
would...
Stacy, I thought we were just going to torture Tommy today like we usually do, but go ahead.
No, it's not torture, because it's Katana. So I'll get into more of why I love Katana when I talk about my specific favorite issues. But we were talking about Katana, real name Tatsu Yamashiro. She grew up in Japan, was proficient in martial arts, which her parents encouraged. There were two brothers who proclaimed their love for her, and through some unfortunate events that I will talk about in a little bit, she ended up with a sword called the Soul Taker, a katana called the Soul Taker. She trained as a samurai, and she then took the codename Katana and eventually joined Batman and the Outsiders.
Okay, that's a pretty condensed version of her.
It is.
What are some of her powers? I mean, besides being proficient in martial arts?
Her main power is her katana called the Soul Taker. It possesses the souls of anyone she kills with it, which is pretty badass. That's her main one. Once she joins the Outsiders, she becomes guardian to one of the other characters named Halo, who is one of my favorite characters of all time as well. So I guess another power she has is being a good mom figure.
All right. She is a good mom figure. I do like that about her. The Soul Taker sword, though, has a few extra powers also. It might imbue immortality, kind of depending on who you believe. It also can allow certain souls to come back. I believe the soul of the brother that killed the other brother for her affection was brought back because of the Soul Taker.
Yes. Yeah, her husband was trapped in there, and by some circumstances, his brother brought him back.
And forced him to try to kill Katana.
Yeah.
And there's also a possibility that they're all full of shit and there's no magical properties about this whatsoever. And she cray and just talks to her sword.
You know what? I
I'll
like the
believe some
fact
of it too.
There's proof that there's proof that it works in the
Is
comics
there?
I'm to talk about. Yes.
All
there are
right.
other
Are you
people
going to
who
talk about
see-
Cheshire?
Nope.
Okay. So she has also been a member of the Suicide Squad and the Birds of Prey, in addition to being a member of the Outsiders in several different incarnations. But I don't think she's ever a member of the Justice League, which is, oh yeah, she was Justice League of
She
America.
was.
Yeah,
Yep.
she was.
So she's pretty much done every superhero team in the DC universe.
She wasn't a member of the Terrifics.
Yes, you are correct. Just about everyone that counts. How's that sound? Is that better?
remember when you said just about.
I see how it is now.
Yeah, she wasn't a member of the Metal Men either. All right. Yeah, you got me. I was wrong. She's been on very few teams in the DC universe.
I'm
Doom
glad she was
Patrol.
part of the Doom Patrol, Tommy.
Never one of the Sea Devils.
Exactly.
Wasn't
She was a
Confess
Black
that-
Hawk for a while. That's good.
Yeah.
Tommy, you suck.
oh, Sergeant Rock.
Well,
she
if
was
she
the
were a member
Howard
of the
Command.
Blackhawks, she wouldn't have gotten her own plane anyway.
She's actually probably one of the more famous female heroes in the DC universe because she appears in a multitude of other media other than just in comic books, which I would even argue that she is more important in other media than she is in comic books because of all her appearances in the different series. Like she was a main character on one of the Batman animated shows. She appears in The Brave and the Bold. She's one of the superhero or super teen girls or whatever that's called.
DC superhero girl. She's one of those.
Yeah.
She appears
yeah.
in Soul Sisters.
She's played her, Katana's been a member of Team Arrow in the Arrow WB series. And of course, she's was in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, she really does have a pretty long list of teams and media that she's appeared in. Any video games? I'll look that up.
Mhm.
I'm going to say yes.
Probably
yes,
somewhere
yeah.
in there.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
definitely Justice.
Lego,
Oh, yeah.
Batman.
Yeah.
She's everywhere. She's everywhere you want to be, guys. I like the fact that she is in the superhero girls one. I really that's absolutely not targeted to me, but it's a very cute series, and I'm glad little girls have their own cartoon that's aimed at them to watch. Not that everyone can watch that, but it's certainly more aimed for that group, and it's real cute. I like it. You guys
Yeah.
watched it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is.
I love the art style.
Yeah, and the voice acting is great. It's just a lot of fun. Little dopey fun. So, Mikey, when did you first get introduced to the character? Did you first hear in Suicide Squad or something else or a standalone? Or
So my first introduction to her was her second appearance in Batman and the Outsiders #1. In that comic, she is killing a person and accidentally kind of frames Black Lightning for the murder. My bad, Black Lightning. She eventually makes up with and becomes friends with Jefferson Prince. But I'm going to tell you guys my favorite comic. And Stacey, if you have not read this, I will assure you, I will make the Michael Manning guarantee that you will love this comic, or I will give you the money you spend on it back. It is
Fair
one
enough.
of the Black Label comics. It is issue number 3 of the Other History of the DC Universe, and it is written by John Ridley. And like all of the other ones, he takes a lesser known hero in the DC universe, and he does a prose from their point of view, telling their own history, while they have artwork from various important comics in that character's career. I talked about it before with the Black Lightning, which was the first issue. Second issue was Mal from the Teen Titans, aka the Guardian, or Gabriel, depending on which version. And this one, again, does an incredible amount of justice to Katana, because not only does it talk about her history, it talks about her, how she is indeed an outsider. But he goes into even more, because as he talks about it, he talks about during the publication history of Katana, actual real world events that were going on at the same time that reflect her outsiderness, as being a member of not just the Asian community, but a female in particular, because of the way that older females who are widows in Japan are treated. And also just America's black eye, if you will, of how we treat Asian Americans in this country. And it talks about how at the time where she was fighting for, she's an outsider in the United States, and she's able to view the inherent racism that is the basis of the United States, despite the fact that it promotes itself as a paragon of virtue. And even the heroes that represent it don't actually typically see the rot from within. So a very good retelling of her origin. And you might not like it, because in this one, the writer says, no, I made up all that stuff about the sword. I talked to it so people will think it's possessed. It gives me greater power over people for them to think that it has some sort of magical power. But at the end of the day, she is an anti-hero. She kills bad guys, which should not put her in the same group as Batman. But Batman hopes to channel her aggression in a more favorable manner, and that's why he asked her to watch Halo and become her guardian, despite the fact that, at least according to this comic, she doesn't really have a lot of maternal instincts. Her two children were killed in a fire, and she's driven by vengeance, not grief. So it's an interesting comic. I recommend everybody check it out.
It sounds like a great comic. I'm going to look at that one.
does.
Is that one that you said that was on DC Comics? Can I get that there, do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure you can go onto Comixology, or it's probably not on DC Universe yet, because it came out in March. So it's usually it takes, I think, 4 or 5 months before they start dropping the issues. But it's a gorgeous book. It's for those of you who aren't watching the video of this, it's a magazine style book. So it's a larger format, just like all the others in the series. But gorgeous artwork. And for people who are fans of the history of the DC universe, you're going to recognize a lot of the artwork in this book.
Great.
It is available on Comixology.
Thank you, Joshua. Josh, you're not a big DC guy. Do you remember the first time you saw Katana?
I'm trying to think back, and it was probably something like Justice League Unlimited.
Well, probably, I would guess Young Justice, right?
I can't remember which came first, but yeah, it was definitely in the cartoons. It was definitely in the vein of the DC cartoons. It's another character. I think she has a great character design. I like the idea of the soul-stealing blade. It was ambiguous, but never said whether or not she really had powers per se. But at some point, she was, deflecting bullets with a sword. So I assumed from that aspect she had some superpowers. But I can't really, I don't really know. I did pick up. What did I pick up?
The sword was sharp enough to cut into Captain Atom.
That's true.
That it was.
The sword also cut, General Zod, as we talked about last week.
So yeah, it's a tough sword. That's for
yeah.
It's probably that. Therefore,
Sword definitely has powers.
Therefore, it is magical if it's able to cut a Kryptonian skin.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, Stacy, you are vindicated by our resident cosmonaut.
That's right. And I was reading Tales, the Suicide Squad Tales, and where they focus on a single character. So I picked up Katana had a 6-issue limited series there, and in it she's trying to rescue a scientist who is trying to blend the supernatural with science. She's trying to rationalize the magic of the DC universe with science, and she's able to see the souls in the sword, and Katana's after her because she wants to rescue her husband's soul from the sword. So I just assumed that it was actual lore, that the sword was indeed magic. The 6-issue series was just okay, but it was an interesting concept that they were trying to sort of break into the world of the DC mystics with science.
Yeah, she hasn't had very many solos, just 2 solo series, I believe. The one that you mentioned, the Suicide Squad one, and then she had a 10-issue series. With
the New 52 series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read part of the New 52 series on DC Infinite. I say I read part of it because DC Infinite is still a crappy app, and it kept having errors. So there were several issues where I could only read part of them. And I thought that series was okay. I liked the fact that when Killer Croc destroyed Soul Taker, broke it into bits, all the souls came out, and some of the souls were telling her that when she was talking to her husband, they were whispering back to her, and it wasn't always her husband that was talking back to her, and that it was really Trickster Soul that was talking back to her and other things. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take of, yeah, you may have been talking to your husband, but it wasn't always your husband that was talking back to you through the sword.
No.
I like that. That's cool.
So,
Stacey, what's your favorite? Yeah, I cut you off.
I was going to say, unfortunately, I didn't get to see how the Soul Sword was remade because that was part of the comic that was cut off from me. Thank you, DC Infinite.
If you know the answer to that, go ahead and write us at luckybastard@thelongboxguy.com.
Hashtag spoiler. Stace, what's your fave?
My favorite Katana and my favorite one of my absolute favorite comics of all time is the single superhero comic I read as a kid. I read mostly Archie comics. That's how my mom taught me to read. And then my uncle bought me a stack of Batman and the Outsiders comics. He bought me Batman and the Outsiders #1. And then at the time we lived near Nashville, Tennessee. And there's still a version of the same store. But there was a store on Broadway downtown Nashville called The Great Escape. And they are still a great comic and toy shop and used records and all kinds of dead media. But they had quarter bins. And my uncle would give me $5, $10, whatever, and say, see how far you can stretch this. So I bought Archie comics for the most part, but then when I started getting into Batman and the Outsiders, that's what I started buying. So I mainly, for this one, I reread The Origin of Katana Part 1 and Part 2. Which we've talked about. We've talked about the origin. I also want to point out for people who are watching the video There's a beautiful Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in television
Oh.
ad on the back of this one, and it's gorgeous.
It's one of my favorite games of all time. But go on.
It's so pretty. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about her sword. I also want to just give a huge appreciation to how beautiful an artist Jim Aparo is. Like,
Yes.
this is so pretty. Look at this sword. Like, this in her katana. There's the Outsiders, Halo, Metamorpho, and Batman.
If you do want to see how pretty that is and you're listening to the podcast, we're going to post this entire podcast as a video also on our YouTube channel. So you can actually see that picture. And it is really pretty. You're correct.
Yes. So the first part is kind of a modern story where she has somebody after her. She doesn't know who is. She finds out that it is her brother-in-law who did murder her husband. He's mixed up in the Yakuza. She thinks that she has to leave. She leaves Gabby, or Halo, a note and says, "Don't try to find me. I'm leaving." And they follow her to Japan. To her surprise, "What are you doing here?" "Well, we love you, you dum-dum. We came here to help you. Whatever you need, we're a team." And I think through the whole thing, I feel like this issue really cements her feeling as a part of the team, where she feels like less of an outsider. I mean, they're all outsiders, but she feels like less of an outsider. In the meantime, the head of the Yakuza has Takeo, the brother, do this ritual to, I missed something. Their swords get switched. So he has the Soul Taker and releases not only her husband, but some other, I'm guessing, supervillains that she's killed. Shuriken, Blow Dart, Anthor Stone Axe, and then Nunchuck.
Did you just naming weapons? He also killed Sai, but Sai was just an old Jewish guy. Sai was just an old Jewish guy.
Oh no, Sai was actually her name in the criminal syndicate.
Oh, that's right. I thought Sai was just a depressed kid she killed.
Yeah. So then in the second issue, in the Origin of Katana, you get her true origin story. You learn about the murder. You learn about how she had a family and she was very happy, and that was all taken away from her. And so that's when she decided to become a samurai. And they end up having to fight the brother. Then she ends up having to kill her husband. She didn't kill him the first time, but she ends up having to kill her husband to release his soul, so it doesn't get trapped in the sword. Her brother-in-law's soul actually gets trapped in the sword.
Because the brother-in-law was controlling the husband to make her attack Katana.
Exactly. Yeah. So so it's an interesting story. It explains so much of my own origin story in terms of, as I got older, I became very interested in like samurai movies and kung fu movies, and anything that, Lady Snowblood and Kill Bill and all of the stories that have to do with women with swords that wanted revenge. So yeah, it's like I said, it's a big part. Batman and the Outsiders in general is a big part of my own origin story. Katana is a big part of that.
Well, that's great. I love hearing the passion you have for that character in your voice there.
Yeah.
And at one point, Katana is killed by Cheshire. Or not Cheshire, Lady Shiva.
Yes.
Lady Shiva, the baddest ass assassin in the DC universe. Sorry, Deathstroke, you pedophiles. Take a back seat. It's Lady Shiva. Lady Shiva kills Katana with her own sword, and Katana, through force of will, is able to escape and resurrect herself by escaping from the Soul Sword. And one of the reasons why she decides to come back and not just go into the afterlife when she had the opportunity was because she does not feel she's worthy of her husband and children anymore because of all of the crimes and sins that she's committed. So she has a heartbreaking tale that you don't find in a lot of superheroes. And again, that's probably because she's an anti-hero, that she's got this great tragedy about her. Great character. They should really give her own series again and get a really good writer for it.
Yeah, and I would say honestly, and I'll save it for when we eventually talk about the rest of the Outsiders, but I would say that is even as a kid, that was one thing that I loved about Batman and the Outsiders, is that they all had this depth and this sadness to them. Like Metamorpho is a very, very sad character. Halo has a pretty sad past. I mean, everybody has some semblance of loss, or the reason that they're outsiders. So yeah,
except for Batman.
Except for Batman, but Batman, he's a part of it, but he's really not. Like, he just kind of swoops in and does his little bat thing, and then nopes the fuck out of there, and then leaves them to deal with their problems.
Yeah, Batman is kind of a minor character in Batman and the Outsiders, and it's a shame that that's what it was called. I understand, because they wanted to sell books, and Batman sells books, but it kind of makes the Outsiders seem like they're a backup band to the star Batman, and that's not really what the comic is about. Mike Barr, right?
Mike Barr, yeah.
Did a great job writing that series.
And if you had asked me maybe a week ago what my favorite was, I would have said also Batman and the Outsiders. But this weekend I got the incredible privilege of sitting next to Tony Isabella, and I made the incredible mistake of asking him what he thought of Batman and the Outsiders. And for the first time ever, I got Uncle Tony to drop an F-bomb. That is true. On a panel. You can ask Diane.
I warned you not to mention that.
You can't dangle that kind of bait in front of me and not expect my big old fish mouth to go gulp, gulp, gulp. Tony Isabella really did not like Black Vulcan being part of the Outsiders, or being beholden. Black Lightning. Thank you. Black Lightning to be part of the Outsiders at all, and was particularly vexed by having him in any way, shape, or form associated with Batman. So listening to Tony kind of ruined I liked the Outsiders until I sat next to Tony for 10 minutes over the weekend. My exposure to Katana was almost exclusively in that first run of Batman and the Outsiders, and I did like the character. And also I like seeing her show up in the Suicide Squad, so I think that's the only two times I saw her before I did a little research on her this week. Fun character. I like her.
She's got a lot of different costumes too, but I think I like the latest one with the half mask and the leather jacket. I think that's probably my favorite costume of hers.
She did go through a few costumes. Anyone want to put the last words on Katana? Maybe Stacy, since it's one of your faves.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, if it's a character that you're not familiar with, there's obviously a lot of material out there. Something we didn't mention, and something I had forgotten about until we were doing show prep, was her role in Blackest Night, and how the sword kind of let her know what the Black Lanterns were up to, and I had completely forgotten about that. So that was a cool thing to revisit. But yeah, I mean, sorry, Tony Isabella. I understand why he has the feelings he has, but The Outsiders, it's a fun 80s comic, and yes, there are things like Baron Bedlam, which, I mean, I think he's a fun villain, but his name's kind of silly. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of good stuff with Katana and Halo. Again, that kind of guardian child relationship. There's a lot of beauty in it. like I said, I'm a fan.
All right. Well, I guess that'll bring us over to the front of the long box. Mike, what do you got in the front of the long box for me?
Well, a few months ago, I talked about life story of The Amazing Spider-Man by Chip Zdarsky. And now Marvel Comics is doing another life story, taking the Fantastic Four decade by decade. And it is written by friend of the podcast, Mark Russell.
Mark Russell.
It
Great.
is the Fantastic Four life story. The first issue just came out this past week of the 1960s. We are huge fans of Mark Russell here at the podcast. This is not your typical Mark Russell fare. There is not a lot of things that make me laugh out loud in this comic. It is more of a love letter to the Fantastic Four. However, if you love continuity, then this might not be the comic for you, because Mark Russell is retelling the Fantastic Four and its origins in this comic, and he is taking creative leeway with it. At first, I was a little turned off about it, but then I thought, these are all imaginary characters, and I need to get over myself. And then I enjoyed the story for what it was. I think it's tough trying to nail the Fantastic Four, but I have good feelings that the rest of the series is going to progress and make them more of a family than they did in the first issue.
All right, well, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to reading that one. And then you said that just came out.
It did.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. So that's the front of the long box. What's at the back of the long box, my good friend Tommy?
I have Southern Cross by Becky Cloonan, Andy Belanger, and Lee Lowridge. It is a story of a woman whose sister has died on the moon Titan. She was part of a drilling crew, and she was dead. So her sister is going out there to claim the body and suspects foul play. And it's kind of a little bit of detective story with science fiction, and she discovers that there's a sort of an artifact that opens up a gateway to these beings from another sort of dimension, from another side of the creation, if you will. And it's a very interesting comic. And it's very well done. It's a little trippy and weird in some places. It has some graphic nudity, if you will, in some places.
And I will.
Didn't really need to be there. What?
And I will.
And you will. So it's a little trippy in some places, but so far it's a very interesting book. I've read the first 2 volumes, and I can't wait to see how it ends, because it's still an ongoing book. But it's, like I said, it's very intriguing. A little bit of action, a little bit of science fiction, a little bit of detective work, a little bit of sort of mysticism, if you will, kind of this, creatures from the other side of creation that are kind of coming to take possession of the human race and sort of possess people and take them as their own. And it's kind of interesting.
What publishing company?
I believe it's an Image book. Let me just verify that. Yeah, it's an Image book.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
So, but the art is really well done, and like I said, the story is intriguing enough for me to want to continue on and read the rest of it. So.
All right, that sounds like one I'm going to take a look at. Stacey, you got a toy for us today?
I do.
Toy. Give me the toy.
I do. So we were talking about Katana, who is kind of, I would say she's fueled by vengeance, but she's probably driven a little bit by grief. And I just got this figure the other day. Here's another woman who is sort of driven by grief, and that is our Scarlet Witch.
Oh, I like I like the little the flames coming out
magic
from her.
effects. Yeah. Pretty cool. So she is a Marvel Legends. She is in the most recent wave. It's kind of a Disney Plus wave because there's a Loki figure, there's Scarlet Witch, there's a Vision, Sam and Bucky and Baron Zemo, and so they're all, their likenesses in the MCU or the Disney Plus. She also comes with these really cool translucent pink hands, which are kind of hard to see, but
No, I can see those fine. Thank you.
yeah. But the likeness is really good. I'm continually impressed by what Hasbro is able to do with the digital face printing with those and with the Star Wars Black Series figures. So, yeah, she's taken up residence on my desk, at least until I fold her into the rest of my Marvel 80s collection.
Well, all right. That's a great looking one. That wasn't too much of a tangent, but that's Josh's purview anyways. Josh, you got a tangent for us?
Yeah, so we're talking about katana, literally the word sword in Japanese. And so I thought I would stretch that into to our little distraction here. So, who is your favorite on-screen swordsman? And what this kicked off for me was recently Henry Cavill has been showing interest in the reboot of The Highlander, which will be directed by second chair to chess player Chad Stahelski from from Mike's high school. So, barring that he was not a great chess player, he was a great stuntman, and he's gone on to be at least beloved by Keanu Reeves, and he has actually taken the reins to one of my favorite childhood movies, and we actually know how to track him down because we know where his parents live. So if he doesn't, assuming he doesn't screw that up, we can leave him alone. But other than that, where are we going with your favorite and I'll say lightsabers count just because. Favorite on-screen swordsman.
I just want to add that the only thing I can the only time I could kick Chad Stahelski's ass is on the chessboard, and that is it.
That's fair.
All right, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And Chad, we know you're not listening, but
we know you're not listening.
But if you are and you want to be on the podcast,
I just want to get my head cut off in Highlander. For fuck's sake, just let me hold a sword and have my head chopped off in Highlander. Jesus Christ.
That's not so much to ask, really.
Really isn't.
No.
Yeah.
I will stop teaching your parents' house as long as I get my head cut off in that movie. How about that?
So,
I mean, is it too much to ask for like one opening scene with like 30 extras that come out with swords that get their head chopped off?
No, it's
really?
not too much.
No, not at all.
Not fucking all.
There can be only one. You have to kill a lot to get to be the only one.
A lot to get to one.
Yeah.
So I will say, although the Highlander movie was amazing, I really did enjoy the TV show.
Oh, me too.
I went out of my way to buy every season of it on DVD when I had the opportunity. So I will say Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod is my favorite fictional swords person.
You remember the actor's name? I can't.
Adrian Paul.
Adrian Paul. So Adrian Paul comes to Massachusetts every year and teaches a big workshop on stage combat. It's very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Adrian Paul too. I mean, he is a good swordsman. He put in a little bit of work.
Yeah, he put the time in.
Yeah, he did. He put the time in. No one's gonna like mine. It's Justin Chambers.
I don't know who that is.
The Three Musketeers that no one liked but me.
Is it recent?
Is it the Disney one?
No, it's what year was it? I'm looking at the Wikipedia page here. It's 2011. It was directed by someone that I liked.
Justin.
Director Peter Hyams.
You're just saying words. Like, are you even?
Yeah.
Go to the Musketeer.
The Musketeer?
The Musketeer.
The Three
It
Musketeers
was-
is one of my favorite books of all time. I love
This is the
that.
one where
You know,
it's
Justin
very
Three
much.
Chambers-
Musketeers is a fine chocolate bar.
From Grey's Anatomy? That guy?
Yeah.
Is that the guy I'm looking at? Am I
Well,
looking at the right guy?
He said nobody was gonna like it.
I
was
love
right.
The Musketeer. It really, this came right when you and I, Josh, took up the sword. The movie The Musketeer came out. It's 2000, The Musketeer, 2011. It had a very Japanese Chinese martial art kind of feel. Do you remember when the sword fight on the barrels?
Yeah, except that was 10 years after we took up the sword, but sure.
Yeah, we
That's
took
when
up the
I
sword in
saw
like
it.
1999.
That's when I
So,
started doing the damn splits.
what character does he play?
D'Artagnan.
Oh, the worst
Okay.
of the Musketeers. For fuck's sake, Tom.
He was the best of the
Wow.
Musketeers in this movie. Hey,
It's okay. You can like what you,
You can like whatever
We
you
should
Yeah.
not
want.
shit on
It's
you
your
for
favorite.
liking what you like. We
I
should
told
not
you
be
guys.
swordmaster gatekeepers. It is our bad.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I apologize. You like what you like, buddy.
There you go. I'm going to post on our Twitter page later on the fight scene that turned it for me, where he's fighting on these barrels, and I just love it.
And what's the Twitter account for our new fans?
And that would be the Longbox Guys.
Yeah, at the Longbox Guys.
That's right.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yep. I love the sword fight in The Princess Bride too. I know it's not very
Oh, yeah.
accurate. I know it's not great. And Seahawk, Seahawk, that was a terrific sword fight too. That's all the way back to
Errol Flynn.
Errol Flynn. Thank you very much.
Oh. I was like, Seahawk from Princess of Power?
Yeah,
Errol
so
the
that's,
Seahawk.
that's who I'm
pirate movie.
cosplaying at Dragon Con, so.
Wait, I'm sorry. What?
Seahawk from the Princess of Power. That's going to be my Dragon Con costume.
That is awesome.
That
I
is
love this
awesome.
character.
By the way,
Oh, no.
we have been
Within a tangent.
Giazed. We have been Giazed to
Yeah.
all do a different Doctor Who, and I've already called Tom Baker, just so you know.
You bastard.
Hey, there's 11.
I don't know any other Doctor Who's, so is David Tennant a Doctor Who, or is he something
Yes,
else?
you got David
Yeah.
Tennant.
Yes.
I got Tennant then.
Being the
That's
best.
an easy one.
I call dibs on the dude with the fez because I have a fez.
That might be Tennant. No, that's
No,
not
that's
Tennant.
Alright.
Matt Smith.
Yeah, you got the fez. Okay.
Okay, I never watched it, so.
All right, so there were two that had a fez, so I'm tasking Mikey to go as William Hartnell.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's fine. I
Tommy-
never watched this fucking show, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I
I don't
have.
know.
I,
Doesn't matter.
Very old.
Tommy, you still haven't said your favorite swordsman, have you?
Yeah.
All right, so for Flash, I like Yoda, but for comedy, I've got to go with Bruce Campbell from Jack of All Trades.
Jack of All Trades was a fun show, and there was some fun sword fights in that. Good call, Tommy.
I mean, for accuracy, I would go with the sword scenes in The Count of Monte Cristo. I thought were very accurate.
Which Count of
The
Monte Cristo?
movie.
Fuck
I don't know. It
the movie.
came out.
Fuck off.
it-
There's like 7.
Yeah, but I came out like I don't know, early 2000s.
Oh yeah, you're thinking of the ones with fuck, what's that guy's name?
oh yeah, that dude.
Yeah, that dude.
Yeah. That
No,
Yeah,
not
like,
do
El
me.
Mariachi. Right?
No, he's like the guy from Memento. Is like the bad guy, right?
Guy Pierce?
But the good
Yeah.
guy was the guy from El Mariachi.
What? No.
Oh no,
Banderas.
no, nope,
Well,
No.
Banderas did do a
No.
pretty good, man.
No.
He did do a pretty good one.
no.
He was in Zorro.
Different. Yeah, you're thinking Zorro or.
You're
something
thinking
else.
Zorro.
No, he's right.
I am
Antonio
right.
Banderas was in the one that Guy Pearce was the bad guy.
What?
Huh.
Yes, he was the Count of Monte Cristo, and his sidekick was that other character actor that I
No,
really liked.
Antonio Banderas was not the guy from.
Yes,
the
he was.
He absolutely
Okay.
was not.
I'm looking at a picture of a guy that looks like Antonio Banderas.
It's
Let me
not
confirm.
Antonio Banderas.
Oh, does it just look like
Oh,
Antonio Banderas?
It's Jim Caviezel.
Oh, you're right. I
Played
get those
Jesus.
two convinced sometimes. Who is the sidekick? I love that guy too.
Yeah, the guy, the Hispanic guy who has the
Yeah,
monster drink company.
yeah, he's terrific. I like him too.
He is terrific.
You're right, Jim Caviezel. I do get those two guys mixed up. They look a little bit alike in my mind.
Well, in this picture I looked at, he did, but after looking at it, I was wrong.
It's a good movie. It's not a bad one, LT.
Yeah,
I kind of like the
it's got
training scene.
Louis Guzman as the sidekick.
I love Guzman. Everything
Yes.
is in.
Yeah.
You
All
can't
right.
name up something he's been I didn't like.
So for fun, of course, I do like Potemkin. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stace.
Oh, Mandy Patinkin, sure.
Oh yeah, that was I almost picked that because he probably is my favorite swordsman from childhood, but my favorite swordswoman is I mentioned it earlier, but Uma Thurman's character, the blood splattered bride in Kill Bill, or Beatrix Kiddo. So I would say it would be half Uma Thurman, half Zoe Bell, because Zoe Bell was her stunt woman. And I would also give a shout out to, I believe her name is Michelle Smith, who was what's her name? Daisy Ridley's stunt double in the sequel trilogy. Did a lot of the lightsaber and bow staff stuff. She's super fun to follow on Instagram. She's amazing. And she will every once in a while post videos to kind of show you how to start learning how to do some of the like saber twirls and stuff. Not that I've tried because
I'm sorry, what was her name?
Everything in my house. Michelle Smith.
I took classes with Michelle Smith.
Oh, well.
I took like a year classes with him. She's terrific. They were all online, and she's great. And you could, if you want to take classes from her, you can just do it online. She's very, very amicable to that. Go to her website, and she does group online classes. She does personal online classes. I learned a lot about. I took her staff twirling because she's like, if you've ever seen her twirl a staff, she's not just a world class, but she's a world champion baton twirler. That's how it started, of course. And if she's not in a Star Wars movie at some point, fuck you, Lucas.
She has been.
Well,
she was Daisy Ridley's. Yeah, she was Daisy Ridley's.
I want her. As a stunt person. I want her as a character,
absolutely,
wielding a lightsaber staff because she is the bomb. Yeah, I took about a year's worth of lessons from her. So whenever you see me doing my fancy staff twirls and my rocket and my other few things, that's when me and Josh were doing lightsaber stuff. That's all from her, directly from her.
So Potemkin, I would say, is my comedy. I love him, just seeing him on screen, and plus I love Potemkin. If you're not following Manny Potemkin on Instagram, you're just wrong, because his shit is hilarious on there. And I'd say for realism, I'm gonna go with Harvey Keitel in The Duelists.
The Duelist. Now there was a movie.
Keitel was really ripping it up as doing some fairly realistic sword play in that.
That last fight scene in The Duelist, wow, that was some good stuff.
It's a good movie.
Good movie. All right, good call. All right, I guess that'll just about do it for us.
No, sir. No, sir. Mm-hmm. You have to tell us about Pensacon.
That's right. I did go to Pensacon over the weekend. I was wondering if we're going a little too long for time, but I'll give you some of the basics. I did 5 panels. Unfortunately, none of the boys can make it. Everyone had some very, very legitimate, very good reason for not being able to make it. In the middle of a move, health reasons, all kinds of things. I flew down to Florida on Thursday. I did 5 panels solo. Well, I shouldn't say solo because I was with the great Tony Isabella for 2 of them. He joined me for Stupid Supervillains That We Love. I found out the greatest little fun fact. Do you know that Tony's the guy that came up with Kite Man's real name?
He came up with Charlie Brown?
He came up with Charlie Brown, and he's the guy that coined that. I did not know that until he told me. And I'm like, holy shit, we talk about this all the time. It's one of our favorite our favorite secret identity names of all times. I had no idea he did it. And he worked on Kite Man a few times. We also talked about Stunt Master, another character that he came up with that had a ridiculous premise, but actually ended up being kind of cool. We talked about our new favorite stupid premise, but actually is a really cool character, which is Onomatopoeia. If you guys don't know this character is like the stupidest name I've ever heard in my life, but it's actually kind of a terrifying character. So we did that, and then he joined me for Horrible Stereotypes in Comics, where we talked about that. Then we went on to a karaoke night, which was a lot of fun. We did the Once More with Feeling from the Buffy universe, and that was a lot of fun. Everyone sang along to that. And then we did Dr. Horrible, and I got a little gift from God. There was one girl in the audience who said, "Oh, joy, I've never seen this. I'm so looking forward to it." And I got to stare at her and watch her heart shatter when she realized there was no happy ending. And she was so hurt. And she's like, but. And I'm like, no buts. There's no buts. It happened and it's staying happened. Bad horse wins. No happy ending. Fuck you. And she openly wept. It made my night. But she was also having fun with it too. She just couldn't believe how good it was, and also how sad the ending was. None of us could. The first time we saw it, I mean, I couldn't the first time I saw it. I mean, it was so good, and the ending is just so rough. It was almost a happy cry because it was so good also. I mean, that kind of ending is just so different. Then we had our roughest one of the night, which was right versus left, how politics play out in comic books. So I did this in Florida, where I had a guy in the front row wearing a Trump t-shirt and a Make America Great Again hat. But it ended up being a great conversation, actually. The guy was, he was very, very hard conservative, but not impossible to talk to. We actually found common ground on a couple of issues. And in the end, I think that he had to admit to himself, and he admitted it to the audience, that he's slightly more moderate than he thought. So, and that was good. Having the conversation with people who are all the way to one side or the other is difficult. But in the end, I think a lot of us are much more moderate than we think. Like, I'm a super liberal. I'm a very liberal guy, but there are a couple of things that I vote a little conservative on. I had to admit to myself when I lived in California that Governor Schwarzenegger was a pretty good governor, so I had to vote for him. He was doing a good job. I had to vote for him. As a crazy liberal, it kind of killed me a little bit, but I did. Even my wife, who's a way more liberal lib than I am, voted for Schwarzenegger. He's doing a good job.
I think when you start retracting to smaller politics, things change, right? Massachusetts historically has always done very well with a moderate Republican as a governor and a very liberal Senate and Congress. So it's different, I think, once you get to the different stages have different feels to them.
Yeah. So all in all, the con was great. Everyone stayed as safe as they could. Steve Wise, kudos to you, man. You did a great convention. Also, we made a great new friend in the guise of Emily Whitten, who wrote a great graphic novel called Underfoot. Has anyone read Underfoot?
Nope.
Underfoot is the story of a group of hamsters who go on this adventure. It's age appropriate for younger kids, but it's exceptionally readable by anybody. It reminds me a lot of what's that one with the mice?
Redwall.
It reminded me a lot of Redwall. Thank you, Josh. Totally readable by any age group. Even reminded me a little bit of Watership Down. Great graphic novel. And she joined us for 2 panels also, including Stupid Supervillains, and she was a delight. And hopefully we're going to have her on more panels. She also plans panels and does conventions in the Chicago area. So hopefully she's going to ask us to come up to Chicago at some point.
Is she local to Chicago?
She is. So I think so anyways. So take a look at her. I'll post up one of her books on our Twitter page at some point, because she was a total great person. Superfan Diane loves her before this. That's how I got introduced to her. And we all bought hamster ears because she was selling hamster ears. And that is Pensacon in a nutshell. Had a great time. Can't wait to come back. Pensacon has already announced its next show, which is going to be back in February for next year.
Yay.
So
We're in.
We're in. I'll tell Steve. Oh, also, I should mention that when we did Last Nerd Standing, we were in the Rex Theater, and it is a theater. So we had a giant screen. We had a lot of people. We had a great time in that. We pretty much filled up a movie theater with people screaming at their top of their lungs, super hoarse.
Let me ask you a question, because every year we ask the exact same questions.
There was that one kid that cheated every year in the front row.
He was back again to cheat.
He was back again to cheat.
Okay, yeah.
But I put a monitor on him in the guise of Chris, who you guys might remember was 14 last year. It is, for some reason, 27 this year because he grew a foot and a half and put on like 100 pounds of muscle. So I put him right. Yeah. But he still has a baby face. So I put him right on that guy. Like, if he doesn't say anything, you make him sit the fuck down. And I changed a few of the questions as I went along. So instead of just asking who was in the picture with me for some of the stupid or bad con pictures, I said, what did they star in to become famous? Or what were the first movie they were in? Or what federation were they world champion in? So I changed it around a little bit just to throw that guy off. So good time had by all. Can't wait to come back next year. In a nutshell. Boom. And a lot of people were asking for Tammy and Ian. Because they know we're associated. I got asked for my autograph no less than 5 times in the street. And I also had people asking, is Tammy and Ian coming back? So hopefully we'll see them back. And that brings us to plugs, I think.
Yeah.
Who wants to plug Tammy and Ian?
I'd like to plug geekorthodox.com.
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 Hello, Tammy.
Geekorthodox.com, purveyor of fine t-shirts and other geeky things, such as baseball t-shirts, stained glass prints, hats, socks, you name it, they got it. T-shirts, everything you need, they got.
That's right. Tommy, stand up and show off that beautiful shirt to our viewing audience. That's not standing up, you piece of shit.
He can't. He's underneath the staircase.
Yeah.
He's in Harry Potter's studio.
Fine, Harry Potter.
Yeah, next time, Tom, just give him a sock so we can get out of there. What the fuck's wrong with you?
No sock for you, you prick.
Well, I'd like to
Josh,
thank
punch your camera down. Let's see yours.
Well, I'll just stand up.
He can stand up because he's not under a closet. That's a great t-shirt.
I would like to thank Kirby Crackle for providing our geek rock music every week. You can check him out at kirbycracklemusic.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you might be thinking, what music is he fucking talking about? That's because we have a podcast where I actually edit it and put music and shit in it. You should check that out wherever you get your podcast. We're pretty much on everything: Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, iTunes, or whatever it's called. Spotify. Yeah, we're there. We're like a venereal disease. We're everywhere, and you can't seem to get rid of us.
Except with a little comb.
Or you could go to our website at the longboxguys.com, and we will tell you where we will be, and you will have everywhere else in the world to be.
If you want to avoid us, we will tell you every other place on earth to be except the one place we're going to be. That's a pretty good deal.
And we update that website at least once every 3 years. So it's pretty damn accurate.
After every single major war, that thing gets up there.
That's right. Last troops out of Afghanistan, right? I updated it.
Boom.
Bam.
SALT II treaty. Updated. And Stacy, you do a bevy, a plethora, if you will, of other podcasts. Give us some plugs.
Yeah, so other podcasts you can find me on, you can find them on theretronetwork.com. Most recently, speaking of the Highlander, I think I mentioned this last time, but we did a podcast ranking our favorite action shows of all time, and one of mine was the Highlander. So if you want to hear me talk about the Highlander and make fun of his sidekick Richie, listen to that one at theretronetwork.com. It's one of the Bracket Madness podcasts. But we have you name it. If it's related to nostalgia, we've got it. We've got podcasts where we talk about wrestling. We talk about Wizard Magazine. We talk about comics. We talk about toys. We talk about so much nostalgia. So that is the retronetwork.com.
Speaking of nostalgia, one of the stars that I saw that I haven't thought about in decades, Chuck Wagner from Automan. Do you guys remember Automan?
Yes.
Yep.
Didn't he host Love Connection?
I don't know what else he did. All I remember
That was
was
Chuck
Automan.
Woolery.
That's
okay.
Chuck Woolery,
Ah,
you
Chuck
son of a
Woolery.
bitch.
All those
Chuck
Chucks.
back
Woolery's
in
Automan
exactly
would be
2
pretty
and 2.
funny. Yeah.
2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Who was the celebrity you got the photo with? I did not recognize her.
I don't know who that celebrity is either. That celebrity is actually it's true. She's from Supernatural. She's very, very nice, but she's the favorite celebrity of one of my coworkers. And when my coworker heard I was going to Pentagon, she immediately looked up and begged me to get her a signed picture. And I said, no, I'll get a picture of me standing next to her just to rub it in your fucking face.
Oh.
I also got her a signed picture. But she doesn't know that yet.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
She's been in a lot of stuff actually, Supernatural and a bunch of other things. I can post that picture up again. I also got the picture with the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and who's the other guy? Ricky Morton and
Robert Gibson.
Robert Gibson. Thank you.
I have a fun story about Ricky Morton when you're done. Sorry.
Oh,
I can't wait. The only thing I was a little peeved at, it said autographs $30. Yeah, it was $30 each. They got me for $60.
oh, they LeVar Burton you.
They LeVar
Burton the shit out of you.
And I was like, come on, man.
Oh, he fucking picture paged your ass.
You should have said, I only want
only
Ricky's
want
because he's the only one who sold.
Yeah. That's a great line. I should have used that. I'm sorry I didn't. I also met Britt Baker and Mark Henry. Mark Henry remembered me from Memphis. He used to come in and I would give him a brown paper grocery bag full of pork rinds because he loved them so much to take home. He's like, hey, you're the pork rind guy. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe. But like, who else gives you a grocery bag full of pork rinds? Greasy, leaking through the back pork rinds to take home. Stacey, I'm dying to hear your Robert Gibson story. Go ahead.
No, Ricky Morton.
I don't want to hear that.
I don't have a story about Robert Gibson. I have a Ricky Morton story. So I don't know if I can't remember. I can't remember if I don't know if he's from where we moved from before, where we lived in Tennessee, the Tri-Cities, kind of Northeast Tennessee area. But that is where he lived, at least up until a few years ago, because my husband and I used to run into him at the flea market all the time. And he knew my husband because my husband was friends with some guys in a small wrestling federation called Southern States Wrestling. And I think he somehow knew Ricky Morton's son too because of that. But anyway, like most of the time, if we ran into him at the flea market, it would just be us standing there talking to him, like just talking about random stuff. So I've met Ricky Morton probably about a dozen times, just early morning at the Tri-Cities flea market in
nice guy, easy to
Tennessee.
talk to.
Yeah, he's very nice. Like he's super nice.
You'll be a little taken aback if you think all wrestlers are huge.
No. Yeah, they're not.
They're not that big. I forgot one more big shout out, and I got to make this shout out personal. Diane, such a super person, such a great friend of the podcast and friend of ours. She picked me up as often as I would let her. I kept begging her not to have to be my chauffeur, but she came and got me in this terrible hotel I was staying at in the middle of Crackville. I think it was called Crackville. Crackville? Sounds right.
It's a suburb.
Or Methville. It was like Crack and Methville, like we're on the border, because I didn't jump on a hotel or Airbnb soon enough. Diane, thank you so much for every single ride you gave me. Every single dinner we went to was a true joy. And I just want to say thank you once again for being one of our favorite Patreons and one of our favorite people. Thanks a lot, Diane. And in her backer costume. How great was that?
Oh yeah,
That
she
was
did
pretty great.
the Batwoman from what was it?
66.
From like a 66,
No.
but a little bit more of with a
It's
little
the World War II
Bombshells?
one. The bombshells.
Bombshells.
Yeah, she did a
Bombshells,
bombshells.
yeah.
It was
Batwoman.
like a take on the Bombshells one, but that was more baseball-y. This one was more like 50s also. So it's kind of her own thing, but it was terrific. And she did a great black and white Agatha. Her and her friend did Agatha and Wanda in black and white. And they had the whole gray makeup on and everything, and it was awesome.
Oh,
Wow.
sweet.
Yeah, it was great.
You mentioned Patreon. What's that about?
Patreon, I'm glad you asked. For a mere $1 a month, the price of a hand job in Meth Town, where I was, you can get our Patreon subscription. It gets you another podcast every single week, and every single dollar goes to the Elizabeth Peabody House, which is a food pantry here in the Boston area. They feed over 80 families a week, and they even deliver a little bit of fresh produce to some of our folks who can't get out and about. We're just starting that program there. And it's a great cause, and you really do get a lot of bang for your buck out of it. For $1 a month, you can't beat that.
Indeed.
Indeed.
I would
Alright.
also, before we leave, I'd like to plug Downwind Kites at www.downwindkites.com. All one word. So go fly a kite. Get your kite at Downwind Kites.
Did you really think anyone thought that was 2 words, man?
They could have been putting spaces in while they were typing.
They
Who
could have been
knows?
putting spaces or dashes or dots.
wrong.
Don't
whatever.
judge him.
I'm judging you.
If you want to judge somebody, you can judge Seth and the boys over at who'snextgaming.com.
Oh, I will.
Is that all one word?
Yeah. And don't just
Yeah,
go
of
to
course it's all one word.
who'snext.com because that is a different website altogether.
Totally.
Is that the place I can go to see good, wholesome family fun or get my fill of sex robots?
That's the place you go for your sex robots. If you want good, wholesome family fun, you go to your My Fans Only page. Or
That's right.
I assume that's where you go.
That's where I go. Wholesome Dom at Patreon. Check it out, people. Don't check it out.
No, not that.
No, look away.
Look away.
Look away.
I'm horrible.
And that is that for this week. Thank
Wow.
everybody for listening. Thank you everybody for helping out. Thank you to our Patreon fans. Thank you, Pensacon. Mike, what's this podcast like to you?
It's like Drunk History, but for comics.
Tommy, any words of wisdom for us?
If you haven't gotten your shot, go get your shot. If it takes 2 shots, get both of them. But go get shot.
Josh, Pentagon 2012. Is that your sector?
I think
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry,
true.
2013.
I don't think it was there. I don't think it was there in
2022.
2012.
He's not going to fucking time travel. I assure you of that.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even my thing.
Josh hates
Totally not
time
my thing.
travel.
2022.
2000, that's right, man. 2022. Is that your
22.
sector?
That will be my sector.
Oh my God, we're old, guys. Stacy, any last words for us?
Yeah. It's go outside. Because I spent a lot of time in my backyard this weekend and I really enjoyed it. And sunshine, wear sunscreen, but sunshine is good for you.
What does sunshine on the water do?
I think
It makes me happy.
Thank you. And don't forget what I always say, just promote what you love. Don't bother with what you hate. You'll live longer. Thank you so much for the Longbox, guys.
Love you. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.